So welcome to this afternoon screening of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I hope you have your song lyric sheets. So hi, everybody. I'm Scott Spradling, and thank you very much for spending some time with us for this presentation by the Partnership for a Drug-Free New Hampshire. We're here because we're on a mission, and the bottom line is we need your help. We need a little extra horsepower behind resolving a situation that is ongoing, that in many cases is getting worse. And if you read the headlines around New Hampshire, especially when it comes to the heroin trade that seems to be blanketing this state and this region, we're dealing with drug addiction rates and alcohol abuse rates, especially among our youngest and most vulnerable populations, at a level that we've not seen in a long time. And so what we're finding is this is a battle that we are unfortunately not winning. And so we have to change the tactics and take the fight back to the public in a way that is unique and will hopefully get their attention in this world of 24-hour news and Twitter and social media and phones that give us access to whatever we want, essentially whenever we want. We have to break through a lot of that noise and get people's attention again. That's the heart of why we're here, and essentially that's the heart of why we need your help, because we have to jump in and get attention in a whole new way. This is not a normal ask. As all of you know, because you're experienced in messaging and in media, oftentimes you get a public message together, you do your public service announcement, you pay for your time, it airs, it runs on a semi-regular basis, you check the box, people have heard, and you hope for the best. Well, we're seeing that that formula isn't working as well as it has been before. So we're looking for a little bit of extra help from all of you. To talk a little bit about the challenge and to talk about the campaign, we have a few voices today. Folks like Richard Ober from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, who's helping provide some financial horsepower to get this word out. And some of the people who are in the trenches that are putting these messages together and carrying them out to the public. And so I'd like to start with Jennifer Casado for the Partnership for the Drug-Free New Hampshire, who will be able to talk about the challenge and essentially what it is that we're asking from you. Thank you very much. Jennifer?
Thank you. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. It's so great to see everybody. I'm going to just start and give you a little bit of a history about the partnership. So the Partnership for a Drug-Free New Hampshire was organized in 1994 under the State of New Hampshire Bureau of Drug and Alcohol Services and was affiliated with the national organization, the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. A lot of you probably remember their commercials. The ones I grew up with were, "This is your brain on drugs," or "It's all because of you, you know, it's because of you." Those are the commercials that I really resonate in my head from growing up in the 80s. So thanks to the support of New Hampshire media outlets, including many of the people in this room, the Partnership for a Drug-Free New Hampshire was able to place millions of dollars of anti-drug messages and PSAs over the past years. In 2010, the partnership, which is now the communications arm of more than 30 public health networks, coalitions, organizations, and businesses, decided to reorganize and focus on the specific drug and alcohol issues that are going on here in the state of New Hampshire. Thanks to a grant from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation in 2012, the partnership has launched a statewide campaign called Check the Stats New Hampshire with the help of M5 Communications, and will also soon be its own independent 501c3 nonprofit. So we're very excited about both of those things. So when we started looking at what we wanted to say to the people of New Hampshire, we did a lot of research. We looked at all those old commercials, we looked at things that are going on across the country. We did, again, I'll say it, a lot of research. And we really talked to our partners that are out there in the field and tried to figure out what's going on, what are they seeing, what do we need to do. And at the end of one strategy meeting, we had sheets of paper around the room with 1 million different substances on them, and 1 million different target audiences, and realized that this problem is so big that we really need to narrow it down to one specific thing and really focus on it. So we started looking really hard at the data. We look at 2 different national surveys for the data that we have. One is called the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, or YRBS, which is administered in New Hampshire high schools and monitors 6 types of health risk behaviors that contribute to the leading causes of death and disability among youth and adults, including drug and alcohol use. Notice I really have to read these parts. Make sure I get the surveys correct. And the other one that we rely heavily on is the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, which provides national and state-level data on the use of tobacco, alcohol, illicit drugs, and mental health in the United States. This survey looks at people ages 12 and up. And this is what we found. So these numbers just came out in January. And this is from the 2012 NSDUH, or National Survey on Drug Use and Health. And looking at these numbers is kind of shocking. I have to say that I actually grew up in the state. I went to college here, I've worked here, lived here my entire life, and I had no idea that these numbers were out there until I started this job. So we started looking at these numbers and saying, how is it possible that New Hampshire is the second highest in the nation for alcohol use among 12 to 20-year-olds? How is it that we're the second highest for binge drinking among the same age group? How is it that we are the 9th highest for marijuana use for 12 to 17-year-olds? What is going on, and what do these numbers mean? And the most important part, what are we going to do about it? So we started talking about, what these numbers mean and how we can change the numbers and what's going on that is causing this. And the thing that kept coming up was that people aren't aware. People don't know that we have this problem. New Hampshire is ranked so highly for best place to live, great place to raise your kids, and yet there's this problem out there that no one's talking about in any uniform way. And that's what we really need to do, is bring some uniformity to this conversation and be consistent in what we're telling people. So we went into this thinking, okay, so people don't know. That was our hypothesis. But is that correct? Do people really not know, or are we just kind of assuming that? So we did a survey of 200 parents of teens and tweens throughout New Hampshire last fall, and we found that we are pretty much correct. When we asked parents if youth and alcohol drug abuse is a significant problem in New Hampshire, only 33% agreed that it was, of those that we surveyed. So only about a third of the parents in New Hampshire really understand that there's a problem. And even more than this, when we asked them, do you understand the statistics? Do you understand that we rank so highly, that we're in the top 1 or 2 for these different issues, or the top 10 for marijuana issues? Do you understand that? Only 25% said that they were aware of those statistics or those numbers. So when you look at this, you can see we're really starting from a very low level of awareness. So our campaign really has to focus on dealing with that issue first. We can't really ask people to solve a problem if they don't know there is a problem. So that's really where we're starting in terms of our level of awareness. And this is something else we discovered when we did our survey. We asked them these different stats, and the numbers are a little different here because these are using a different last year's survey as opposed to the one that just came out. So we asked them, which of these things is most concerning to you, to these parents? And the fact that we rank so highly for past month alcohol use among 12 to 20-year-olds was the most concerning to people. So we said, okay, that's good to know. Then the next one was that 1 in 5 high school students in New Hampshire have admitted to abusing prescription drugs. You can see that New Hampshire was second highest in the nation. Again, this is a little bit older information. For past month marijuana use was 16%, and then as we got a little bit older, people seemed to be a little less concerned. So using this information, using our level of awareness information, we thought, the best thing we can probably do with this campaign is to let parents know what's going on with their teens and tweens. Let them know that there's a problem out there and give them a way to protect their kids from what's really going on out there. So our first goal is really to increase awareness, to let them know what's happening, to let all of you know what's happening so that we can move them to action, in which case we'll be asking them to talk to their kids, and we'll hear a lot more about what we're asking them to do and how we're asking them to do that in the next few minutes. Why parents? Well, studies show that parents are actually the most influential person in their teen's life. You may not believe that if you have teenagers, but they actually do listen to you. And that teens whose parents speak to them about the dangers of drug and alcohol are 50% less likely to use. And that's a conversation. It's not, don't do drugs. It's to have a real conversation. And during our campaign, we're going to actually kind of teach people how to have those conversations or give them guidelines if they need guidelines to help them start those conversations. One other thing I really want to point out about the numbers is that these numbers are snapshots in time. They're just a survey that came out in January. This survey using these numbers came out last year. The YRBS is done every couple years. So those are snapshots in time. What we've really been looking at is the trends. And the trends are not good for New Hampshire. The trends show that our rates are higher than the national averages. They show that we have a lot of work to do, and that's what we're hoping to accomplish with this campaign. So that's pretty much the end of what I have to tell you. In a little bit, you're going to see some of the products from the campaign, and you're going to hear an amazing story from one of a young man that actually grew up here in New Hampshire, and he's going to tell you about his struggle with drugs and alcohol in a little bit. You'll see a great video, so thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's obvious that a lot of homework was done in order to get the stats, get the focus, and get marching orders put together. But as you all well know, to get the message out to the public, we also needed some financial aid. And Richard Ober of the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation was kind enough to open up his group's wallet to help us get this message out to the public. And he's with us today, and I'd like to say a few words. Richard?
Thank you, Scott. So some of you have heard me say this, but it's unacceptable that we're not aware of and addressing these problems facing youth in particular in substance abuse. It's just not good enough for the state. And when you think of a young person who goes off track because of excessive use of drugs, you have to think about our long-term economic health, our long-term civic health. Tim and others can talk to you about the problems of early onset of addiction and use and how much more likely to become a problem when people start young. When we think about the future of the state, with some of our demographics, every young person has got to be given the opportunity to thrive and succeed. And the fact that we're allowing too many young people to succumb to addiction early in their lives is, in a word, unacceptable. So the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, as part of a comprehensive campaign fueled by a very generous donor, has been battling substance use disorders for more than 15 years. 2 years ago, under the leadership of Tim Roark, you'll hear from for a minute, our foundation committed $12 million over the next 10 years to drive a comprehensive prevention campaign as part of that larger strategy. This media attention is a cornerstone of that campaign, as are policy reforms that we're working on, as is building regional networks of prevention providers and activists. It really is a comprehensive approach, but it won't work unless we get over this hump of public awareness. So the campaign, when you see it, might it shock people? It might. But to me, far more shocking is our relative inaction and relative inattention to this problem in the past. So I just want to offer my congratulations to the partnership, to their partner M5 for this, to everyone who signed on for a champion of this campaign. We need policymakers to reform policy. We need educators to step up. We need employers to step up. This is a problem for the future and the present economic productivity of virtually every business in New Hampshire. And we're asking media leaders to play their part, to become champions, to help increase public awareness of this issue, because if people don't understand it's a problem, all the solutions that we're trying to develop won't have a chance of succeeding. So thank you for your attention to this and thinking very carefully about how you can participate as media leaders. Thank you.
Richard, thank you very much. And we appreciate your investment of time and energy in this effort. I'm going to jump out of order. Tim Roark is going to speak in just a moment, but it's my high honor to introduce Governor Maggie Hassan. She is not only a wonderful champion of this exact type of cause, but someone to whom we offered this feedback and said, look, we want to do something different with this PSA strategy, with this message outreach. Because again, in a few minutes, you'll see these messages, and they are meant to stop you and get your attention. And look, we wanted to make sure that we had that group buy-in, because we felt like we needed to take a little bit more of an aggressive risk to get the public's attention, to get them focused on tackling this issue. And so we went to the governor's office and pitched their team on what it was that we were trying to do, and we got a full buy-in from Governor Hassan. And it's my honor to introduce the governor to talk to you and share a few words this morning. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everyone, for being here. Thanks, Richard and Tim and everybody else who is here. I really appreciate all of you taking the time out to learn more about this partnership and this program that we are doing. I think it goes without saying that we all understand that we are facing a really significant substance abuse problem in the state of New Hampshire, especially among our young people. We have one of the highest rates of substance abuse, especially among young people in the country. It is not something that I think people expect to find when they think of the Granite State, but it is unfortunately a reality that we are dealing with at a number of different levels here. And so I'm delighted that you are all here today. I wanted to let you know that in addition to partnering with this effort and trying to make sure that I am using the governor's office in every way possible to help young people and families in particular learn about the challenge and dangers of substance abuse. We also are trying to take steps at the policy level. We passing healthcare expansion just a couple of weeks ago brings to the state the possibility of a first-time substance abuse benefit through Medicaid, which is going to be incredibly important moving forward. We also are working with our first responders to make Narcan more available so that we can treat overdoses and try to save lives that way. But obviously, I would rather not be reacting to overdoses and substance abuse at the end of the story. We all should be focusing on prevention. And what this campaign really does is focus exactly on that. You'll see the PSAs. I think they're quite powerful. I think they will catch young people's attention in particular. But we're not going to get at this issue without every single person, company, family, community, provider, stakeholder, addressing it together and really bringing people's attention to it, and then really helping them understand that there are tools available to prevent substance abuse, to treat substance abuse, and then to help people stay in long-term recovery, which I think is going to be the other critical part of this effort. As people recover, learning as a community that recovery is an ongoing process and that we need to have treatment for that too. So I am delighted that you all took time to be here to learn about this effort. You have my full support, and I am hoping that the more we all learn about this issue, the more our young people learn about the dangers of substance abuse, the more tools we give them to resist it, and the more tools we give families to understand how kids get involved in using prescription drugs in particular and what the dangers of that are, the better off we're all going to be. We're going to have a much healthier, much stronger state. So thank you all for what you're doing. My pleasure to be here, and anything the governor's office can do to help you all move forward with this campaign is something we're committed to doing. Thanks.
Thank you for coming. As you can imagine, the governor's schedule is a lot like a hummingbird having to go at 1,000 miles an hour to different places. So we know she had to roll out immediately, but we appreciate her being here. If she's the field general of the bully pulpit for a message like this, then one of her key foot soldiers is Tim Roark. So let me introduce Tim now to talk a little bit about his efforts and what the state is really meaningfully trying to do to beat back this problem and this challenge. Tim?
Thanks, Scott. Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Tim Roark, and it's great to have followed Dick and the governor, because I wear a couple of hats and I sort of have two bosses. But I am the Director of Substance Use Grant Making and Strategic Initiatives with the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. So as Dick alluded to, really happy to play the role of funder and funding partner to this initiative. But in addition, at the request of the governor's office to the Charitable Foundation, I serve as chair of the Governor's Commission on Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Prevention, Intervention, and Treatment, which was established in the year 2000 to do three things. We are charged with the development of and the implementation of a statewide strategy to address drug and alcohol problems, to advise the governor and the legislature on both budget and policy issues related to substance use disorders, and thirdly, to oversee disbursement of some state funding that goes into the financing of prevention and treatment services called the Alcohol Fund, which some may be familiar with. I want to just hit on a couple of other points about why we think this issue is so important. And I will say, speaking from the Governor's Commission, I can tell you that a lot of the statistics and information that Jennifer has shared is not new to us. New Hampshire has always been, at least in the last 15, 20 years that I've been in the substance abuse field, ranked relatively high comparative to other states when it came to substance use issues in general. And there has been a long-standing conversation among state leaders at the Governor's Commission table and others that we needed collectively to do a better job of speaking with one voice to the public about the significance of this issue. You know, I'll just highlight two stories that I saw in the media yesterday. In the city of Keene, a rash of business robberies where businesses were broken into, nothing else was stolen except the cash out of cash registers. The exact same dynamic in a series of break-ins in Manchester. Now, I haven't spoken with the law enforcement officers from those regions about those specific issues, but I will tell you that if you ask any police chief anywhere in the state of New Hampshire around the increase of crime in their community, what's driving it, drugs and alcohol are the reason. Substance abuse disorders cost the state of New Hampshire approximately $1.15 billion a year. To put that in context, that's 2% of the state's gross domestic product. The Department of Corrections, the fourth largest driver of the state budget, a significant policy pressure on the state. 80 to 85% of the people who are incarcerated have a substance use disorder that was not treated or ineffectively treated. So we know that the economic burden to the state of New Hampshire is enormous, and it is putting an incredible drag on the state's ability to achieve other goals that we have. Additionally, we know that this is a kid's disease. Children under the age of 15 who engage in substance abuse are 4 times more likely to develop a full-on substance use disorder. 1 in 4 young people in the United States lives in a home where there's a parent that has an active substance use disorder, largely alcohol. So we know that in addition to the economic impact, this has a significant impact on children. And when we look at our high rates of adult addiction, where we also lead the country, many of those adults began their substance use behaviors as young people. Not all, but many. So for us, collectively, to work with the partnership, to have them focus on issues of youth are incredibly critical, and to help focus on parents of those young people so that we can both raise the awareness and give those families tools to make a difference. So we're really excited to see this begin to roll out. We're really excited to think about ways in which the broader media community can engage in this process as partners. And the last thing I would say is that the campaign you're about to see is the beginning of what we know needs to be a very long-term conversation. We're not going to take those numbers that Jennifer shared with you and drop them in the next year or in the next 2 to suddenly be able to wipe our hands as a state and say we don't have this issue anymore. This has been a significant issue of the state for decades. It will continue to be so. So we look at this initial campaign as the beginning of that conversation with the primary goal of simply raising awareness among the broader community, because while those of us in the field have known about this and the scope and scale of this issue for some time, the random general person on the street may not. So this campaign is designed to achieve a certain purpose. It will be followed by another, and then another, and then another, so that over the course of time, we can move from a state with a population that is surprised by this to a state and a population that knows that this is an issue, knows there are tools to solve it, knows that this is a disorder that is preventable and treatable. And so we look forward to this being the beginning of hopefully a very long-term engagement with you all as critical partners to raise this dialogue in the state. So with that, I'll extend a similar thanks to everybody in the room and to the partnership and their team for putting this together. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tim. How many of you remember the Brain on Drugs ad with the skillet and the egg, right? Made a really strong impression. As you well know, to get your point across, especially in today's media, you've got to have smart marketing. So we went out and got a really smart marketer to help us with this and to play show and tell and to really get to the heart of what this campaign is about. I'd like to introduce you to Susan Walsh from M5 out of Manchester. Really wonderful agency that put its creative juices to the test, and they came up with some serious gold. Susan?
Thank you. Well, thank you. And most of you in this room know me and know that, to be perfectly frank, I'd rather have a root canal right now than stand in front of you and talk. So I think that, but one of the things that we learned in this campaign and in talking to people, and honestly, when Jennifer first came to us, it was so startling. We realized that that startle factor is what we need to somehow harness for this, because nobody really knows this key problem. And I have kids in this age group. These are things that I felt like when she told me, oh my God, I'm the worst mom ever. I didn't know this. And then we started to grow it a little bit and realize, okay, people don't know this. And how can we really, as Jennifer said, and as Tim mentioned, and is such a wonderful, scary statement, is how do we address this kid's disease, because it is affecting them. So we went out and did a lot of research, like Jennifer talked about, and decided to target these parents and caregivers of these people so they're more aware today and know how to open up this conversation with their children and with their peers. We're really looking at this as a social campaign. We're trying to get this word out there. So me as a mom, I'm talking to my groups. And Jennifer is talking to her groups, and I'm talking to my business groups, because let's be perfectly honest here. We can all say this is affecting our children, and we can say it's affecting the parents that maybe had problems of their own, but it's affecting every single one of us. It's affecting your businesses, because these people that have issues today are the people that you want to hire in 15 years, in 10 years. These are the people that, you know, we went to talk to Jeff Rose. I think of all the talking we did, that was the most important conversation to me, because he actually told us that there was a business out there that has job openings. In this market, in this economic situation, he has job openings that he can't fill because nobody can pass the drug test that he's putting out there. Just think about that for a second. As employers and as a group of people who have a lot of clients that you touch every day, it's really important for us to realize that this is a much deeper. We can all say, I know it's not my kid, because it may not be. And I know that it's not necessarily anybody that affects me directly. I don't have kids. My kids are older. But really the depth of this problem, and it all stems from the fact that we all have this bubble around us because we're rated as one of the healthiest states and one of the best states to raise children. So we've got to pop that bubble just a little bit and make people realize we have a problem so we can maintain that going into the future, and realize that to keep New Hampshire the way that we love it, we have to really address it. So the campaign is rolling out, and you're one of the first groups that we're talking to, because we do really need these champions. And how we're kind of defining our champions is the people that are signing on with us and saying, you know what, I'm going to work with you to try and find an innovative way for me to use my resources, whether they're your personal resources or your business resources, to take this further to the next step so I can help and address this problem. What we're going to show you today is, if Ann can see me, is to show you some of the very first steps that we've taken. There's some short videos for you to see, and then I encourage you all to figure out a way to talk to me, talk to Jennifer, figure out a way that your personal networks and your business networks can help partner with us so we can then use those to become stronger every day. As Tim mentioned, we have a long road ahead of us, but we have a really good start, and we really wanted to get you guys all in on the ground floor.
You know what's really scary? It could be your kid who's drinking. New Hampshire ranks second in the nation for alcohol use among 12 to 20-year-olds. Learn how to protect your kids at checkthestatsnh.org. You know what's really scary? It could be your kid smoking pot. New Hampshire ranks in the top 10 states for marijuana use among 12 to 20-year-olds. Learn how to protect your kids at checkthestatsnh.org. You know what's really scary? Your kid getting high on your prescription drugs. 1 in 5 New Hampshire teens has abused prescription drugs. Learn how to protect your kids at checkthestatsnh.org.
Pretty strong stuff. Alex at least had the epiphany, but we know that doesn't happen enough. From what Jen explained, the statistics are out there, they're real. The level of ignorance among parents remains high. We've got to break through that somehow. So what is the ask? What is it that we need from you? Well, what we need is an echo chamber. We need your help to spread this message. Spread it aggressively, early and often, and repeat it as best we can. And so here's a few things. None of these are a heavy lift, but this is where we just need your help. So what are we asking of you? We're looking for your creativity in helping to get this word out more aggressively through your own channels, through your own media access. We just need to push on this. But before you leave here today, here's a few things that we would love from you. Sign a champion sheet that we have here. Go on Facebook and get to the Check the Stats New Hampshire Facebook page. Like it and share it and get it going in your own universe, because as we all know, we're all so deeply and closely connected through social media nowadays. That is really an easy and effective way to get the word out. Follow us on Twitter. Again, it's Check the Stats NH. Sign up and receive e-blasts and share them with your professional colleagues and with your friends. Think about any other ways that you might be able to help us. So, for example, if you're a radio station, maybe you can invite Jen to come on the air with you for a few minutes and talk about these stats and help spread this word, so that as moms and dads and even the teens that are listening and getting ready in the morning or getting off of work in the afternoon and evening, they're hearing about this. If you do website-related things, maybe you'd be willing to post banners on your website or do some stories through Jen's homework and research with the stats, or create a link to Susan's ads. If you're in print, maybe you'd welcome op-eds, ways in which we can get in front of the community at large to be able to spread this word. The bottom line is we need your help, and anything that we can do to help spread the word so that Alex's story isn't everybody's story in New Hampshire. We're fighting upstream on this thing, and we don't have a lot of resources to be an overwhelming success. So we've got to do the trench grassroots type of warfare here, and that's why we're here in front of you. That's the kind of help we need. So we really appreciate your time. On behalf of Jennifer, the governor, Richard, and Susan, we thank you for your time and your energy and interest in this, and we're obviously happy to take any questions at this time. But otherwise, thank you, and thanks for helping in this fight.